Hello everybody and welcome to Telium Digital Virtuosity. I'm Will Griffith, Vice President and General Manager for Telium across Asia Pacific and Japan. And I'm delighted to be welcoming you here today. This is the first time that we've run our hugely successful Digital Velocity event, which we've run offline in a virtual online environment. And it's a really exciting opportunity for us. One of the main reasons why I'm so excited is that it's given us an opportunity to broaden the reach of who we can bring this great content to. And today we've been overwhelmed by the success and the engagement, the feedback, the response, and the registrations that we've had for the event. We've got people from all around the region joining us, from Australia and New Zealand, from Singapore and Hong Kong, from Taipei, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, and India. It's a really diverse and record-breaking attendance for us. And it's a really strong reflection of how much interest there is in Telium and the CDP space at the moment in this region. So on behalf of myself and my team across the region, and circa 100 of my team across offices in Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, Hong Kong, Singapore, and Tokyo, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. We're really looking forward to it. So our objective today is to bring you a really unique blend of thought leadership, content, and practical experiences to inspire you, to educate you, and to inform you as you make your way through the new normal of the digital landscape. And at Telium, our mission is to empower businesses with the best quality real-time customer data to help you understand, engage, and convert customers better than ever before. And today you'll be hearing from members of the Telium leadership team talking about the trends in this fast evolving marketplace and how our continued investment and focus on world-leading customer data platform technology, or CDP, is helping brands across a wide spectrum of industries deliver the best customer experience and transform their digital businesses. And I'm super excited that along with awesome Telium speakers, we've also got a range of guests from our customers, from partners, and from other thought leaders, from some amazing brands around the world, not just in APAC. So from the US, for example, we've got brands like Facebook and Presidium Healthcare, AWS, and Bluestem Retail Group. We've even got the Utah Jazz basketball team from Salt Lake City. From Europe, Direct Line Insurance, from the UK, my home world, is going to be sharing some awesome insights. And from Spain, we've got Barcello Group, the Spanish hotel and tourism leader. And then from Asia, we've got some awesome brands, including Nixplay up in Hong Kong, who are going to be sharing a really interesting story about how they've pivoted and reacted to the COVID-19 situation. So the structure for today, we've broken it into 4 different tracks. Going to be covering a span of really interesting and compelling content, broken into 5 30-minute sessions. Those are going to be kicking off after the 2 opening keynotes, which I'll be introducing shortly. And everybody, you should have had a chance already to choose your desired content for today, allowing you to create your own personalized digital virtuosity journey. So to get us going, I'm delighted to introduce the first of our 2 opening keynotes for today. Please join me with a very warm welcome for Telium's very own Chief Marketing Officer, Heidi Bullock. Normally based in our headquarter San Diego office, today Heidi is going to be talking about the 5 key principles for dynamic marketing. So thank you very much. Looking forward to seeing you shortly. Sit back and enjoy. Bye-bye.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Telium's Digital Virtuosity. We are so glad that you decided to spend your valuable time with us here today. We know you have a lot of choices with what to do with your time, so we really appreciate it. My name is Heidi Bullock, and I'm the CMO, and I'm going to be talking about the new era of dynamic marketing today, and I'm going to cover 5 principles for creating meaningful customer experiences based on data. And you'll hear a lot from other great speakers today that will go into a lot of these areas in more detail. But I thought it would be helpful to really kick us off with a nice framework so you can really think about these at the end of the event. So to really start things off, I think all of us can relate to this slide where, customer experience really is the new battleground. And to me, regardless if you're in financial services, maybe you're in banking, you're in wealth management, or you're in retail or travel, all of us are really trying to make sure that we're creating great customer experiences so we can maintain great relationships and keep our customers and continue to attract new ones. And I think what we're seeing is really that customers demand a lot. They have high expectations, and if we do not deliver, it can be really tricky. We also know that today buyers, it's a little bit different than years before, where I think if somebody was saying going to buy a car, they might talk to a salesperson, really engage heavily, and the salesperson had a real opportunity to direct that experience. I think today we know that's really not the case, and people do their own research. They talk to their friends, their colleagues to learn about products, and a lot of this is done online. So if you think about one thing today, really when we talk about digital experiences and buyers' journeys, it's up to us as marketers and as organizations to meet people where they are and really make sure that we're creating delightful moments so that they really say, wow, I like this brand. I want to continue to work with them and stick with them. Because we know if we do not do that and we don't deliver a great experience, for better or for worse, there's just too many choices. Maybe you're playing a particular game and you don't like an experience, you can easily switch and play a new game. It's easy to, maybe if you're purchasing groceries online, it doesn't work out well, it's too easy to go somewhere else. So we don't want to have this happen. And that's kind of what I think a lot of us are worried about, especially right now. There's a lot of data that we've seen that when brands can do this successfully, there's a lot of loyalty. And one thing that we know is this COVID period at some point will end. But I think a lot of these practices, like we definitely want to make sure that we continue with them, because I think that there will always continue to be changes and challenges. So let's dive a little bit into the current state and what is it that we're seeing and why are things so different right now? And I think, definitely with COVID and social distancing and, our lack of ability to travel, our sales teams can't have those great in-person meetings. There is a complete shift to digital. This isn't a gradual shift. This isn't stair steps. This is a complete shift. So that's something all of us are seeing, and we absolutely can relate to it. I definitely can think, several months ago, many of us went to the grocery store physically, and now maybe we're getting groceries online. That's a really simple example. And because of this shift to digital and such an increased presence there, there's a lot more of a demand and pressure for insights and efficiency from data. And what I mean by that, it's not necessarily about greater collection of data. It's how can we make sure we're getting insights and that data is actually useful for us as businesses. But I do want to highlight the positive of all of this. And I hope that people, to me, this is a real opportunity. It's been a challenging situation for all of us, but companies that can deliver, and for the customers that are out there listening to this right now that are doing some of this already, this is great. When we absolutely can create these experiences and moments with people that are our customers and buyers, your organization will thrive. So this is positive, and we'll definitely learn a lot more about this today. So let's dive into some of these areas. And the first one is this complete shift to digital. And there's kind of a few key factors here that I think make this interesting. And the first one is we have more people working from home than ever before. So a shout out to all the IT organizations right now that are, keeping everything up and running, including video conferencing. That's a big one. But because people are working from home so much more heavily, and I think a lot of organizations, maybe some of the org work from home, but now we have everybody working from home. And so there's just a lot more investment in digital infrastructure and also making sure we can communicate digitally, but also that we can get insights from a lot of what we're doing remotely, which is very important. There's also a greater dependency on the cloud. And this has been an interesting one because I think a lot of companies maybe were not prepared for this rapid influx, and they're definitely seeing this. And this is, to me, not only adding a lot of pressure on data, but we see investments going to different places. And a lot of folks are having to evolve and change a lot faster than they were initially prepared to do so. And as you can see, we're doing this today. A lot of events are now virtual. And so what that means is people's spend, I definitely can speak for myself. A big part of our portfolio was physical events, including field dinners. And now a lot of that has been shifted, that spend towards more virtual and digital presence. So those are some of the things that we're definitely seeing there. So what does that mean? It means that there's a lot more demand and insights and efficiency from data that's required. And a few key things to keep in mind. I think I said this earlier, but it's not necessarily about more and more data. It's about how can we make sure we're collecting the right data, we can aggregate it in the right way, and we can get those insights that we need to make our businesses successful. So let's dive into some of these areas and some things that I think are actually also making this even more important and urgent than before. And the first one that we're seeing is, the need to support global regulatory standards. All of us are very familiar with, GDPR, CCPA regulation went into effect in January. And this is really important. We need to ensure data protection and privacy because that really establishes consumer trust. And that is very, very important. And the key thing to think about here is we want to think about how data is collected, and then ultimately how people's privacy preferences are really propagated through our third-party applications. So because more people are on digital, this is something that I think more of us are feeling pressure around. So that's definitely one consideration. Another consideration that is, this one I think hits me pretty strongly, is the need to optimize spend. In marketing, we always need to be doing this and optimizing our ad spend, but we now need to do this, fairly quickly. And one thing that I think is coming to light in this situation is, siloed data has a cost to business. The lack of ability to personalize, higher ad costs, digital waste and duplication, and ultimately that leads to lower productivity. So, today what you'll hear a lot about data collection and Tealium, our CDP, it's really important because it can absolutely make sure not only you're delivering that compliant experience to people, but ultimately you can run your business more efficiently and make sure that you're delivering the right experience to the audience that can actually buy from you at this time. And lastly, we're seeing, I think, more of a need to predict and really understand data so we can deliver the right experience at the right time. We need to anticipate the right opportunities. And, definitely this has come up for a lot of businesses right now, especially with supply chain. But I think that we can use a very simple example too. We want to make sure we can deliver that personal experience. We need data to be able to predict, wow, this person, they tend to always do their banking Monday morning. Can we make sure that we're giving them the right updates on their mobile app at that exact time? So the need to be able to anticipate and be flexible is also something that's important. And I think companies that can do these things, that they're going to thrive. And as I mentioned earlier, I think none of these components are really going to be going away anytime soon. And we know when companies can deliver great customer experiences, 86% of buyers are willing to pay for it. So I think if it's something that you've maybe haven't done what you would consider an A+ job on, this is a great stat, right? If you invest here, you'll get a lot out of it. And also 73% of consumers point to customer experience being an important aspect of their purchasing decisions. And, I actually probably would guess that's even higher because it really does matter. And I think, we're seeing that right now, digital transformation, it's not optional. It's not something anymore that we can really put off. I think historically, we've seen digital transformation happen over years, and now this has been consolidated really pretty quickly into months. And something that, I'll be a little provocative here too and say that digital alone is not sufficient. Now, we've just talked about the importance and the shift to being very heavily online and having a digital presence, but let's get into this a little more. We need to make sure with our customers, we're connecting with experiences. So we can kind of start by looking at, a lot of us are like, yep, we're online, we're doing advertising, and we might not have our data perfectly segmented. We might feel that there's a lot of unknown activity. And we might be sending out digital ads and it's done in a very mass way. And it's almost, if you think about it, it's almost like somebody's yelling at you. It's not a two-way conversation. And then you move over and you can say, well, okay, well, we've improved, we're doing a little better, we have segments, but maybe data within your organization is more disconnected. So you have a team that does email, you've got the team that handles mobile, the team that does social, and maybe a group that does IoT. But if that data is not coming together and is connected, it's a little bit of a disjointed experience for buyers, right? It's not coming together. They might have one message on their mobile device, and then if they get an email that's not connected to that, that's weird. That's not a good experience. And so where we want to get to is a relevant experience based on unified data and doing that in real time. And you'll hear a lot about this more today, but that is the key point. We really need to make sure that underlying data is handled, collected, unified, and delivered out in the right way so we can provide our buyers with these great experiences. And so what's an example of this? I think, this one I think is a really good one that I think a lot about. Consumers, and again, like whether you're in financial services, pharmaceuticals, it really doesn't matter. It's buyers today, all of the experiences are somewhat dynamic. So say somebody is at home and they're on their desktop and there's an issue that they've run into and they're frustrated, things are not working, and they get on a call center and ultimately they're like, I need to talk to somebody about an insurance issue. Oh no, now it's my time to take my kids to soccer practice, I need to leave. Wouldn't it be great, again, all of this data is unified. You can send a text message. Great, we got your voice message, and now we're going to make sure to schedule an appointment with you. And if that data is collected and processed in real time, an experience like that can happen. And that's what people are expecting. And even taking somebody from a point of frustration and almost converting them over to a place of, hey, I actually feel that I was heard. That's a win. That's what we want to be able to achieve. So this is what we mean by really connecting that data in real time across these channels and devices. And so, the big message and what you'll hear a lot about, which is so important, is, not only to innovate today, but to understand our customers and really actually to delight them. We need to be able to do this through data. And all of us, thinking about kind of the, like 20 years ago, the Peppers and Rogers one-to-one marketing, that idea is what we want to get to. We want it to be a conversation. And, if we had one customer, that'd be great. We could do that. We could call them up and that would be amazing. But most of us, that's not the case. We need to scale. So we really need to tune in and listen to our customers through data. And so that's the framework that I'm now going to introduce. And that's, these great 5 principles for dynamic marketing. And this hopefully will be fun to everybody. And the acronym is tuned in. And so the first one is trust. That's the T. And so we talked about this. Buyers expect a trusted experience and they expect these preferences to be upheld. So if they, ultimately are saying, I don't want to be marketed to in this particular way, we need to make sure that preference is something that we can see, and we want to make sure that preference gets propagated all the way through to other third-party applications. Because once that trust is eroded, it's too easy again for somebody to abandon us and go somewhere else. And, Telium actually did some pretty interesting research. And this number, I don't know if it's surprising. It was a little surprising to me, but 97% of consumers are somewhat or very concerned about protecting their data. I mean, this is a real thing for people. And we know this is true not only in the United States, but in, Australia, Japan, and definitely all parts of Europe. So this is something to take seriously. Trust matters. The second piece is that we want to make sure tuned in that the U is unified. Buyers require this great experience, and you're not going to be able to deliver it if you have tech that's not connected. And I think to me, this image is really powerful because many of you can say, yeah, we have our website data, we have our data in our CRM and our social. You might have a physical presence, a store. And again, or maybe, you're a gaming company and you have this great in-player data, but it's sitting in a data lake. If you can't access that and bring it all together, it's not ideal. And so we want to make sure that our data is unified because again, this kind of image says it really well. You need that right customer data to create these kind of conversations. And if it's disjointed, let's face it, it's weird. And all of us can understand and relate to what those experiences feel like. Now, the third part of this is making sure that it's now. That's the N in tuned in. Buyers really today are expecting these experiences in the moment. You know, if you're going into your bank and you just talk to your teller and they completed some paperwork, and then you go to your phone to deposit some money and there's a disjointed experience, that isn't great. We don't want that. So data collection needs to be done really in real time, and we need to be able to deliver it out in that pace as well. Everywhere, this one, I think we don't need to really belabor this. You know, buyers today, you know, all of us, we're not just sitting at home on our laptops. We have our iPads, we're on our phones. Many of us, you know, use Apple Watches. So we need to make sure data is really everywhere, and that we as marketers are making sure that the right, again, like the privacy piece and also other preferences. Maybe somebody's a VIP. We want to make sure that we're delivering that customer the experience they demand and request. And again, that really goes back to collecting data from all the relevant sources. One of the pieces with Telium that I'm a big fan of and I like is that, you know, we're very much neutral. We want to support, you know, any of the data collection that you already have in place. And also the stack that you have. I've never worked somewhere that has a perfect tech stack. If you feel you've got one, you should high five yourself right now. I mean, it's really tough, right? And so what I like is the ability to be adaptable. And as your organization grows, or you merge with another company, or you buy new tech, great. That's something that can be supported. And then lastly, and to me, this is kind of, I'm wrapping up, and what's the most important is really that ability to delight our customers. Creating moments of delight are, to me, what makes you stay with a company, not for months, but for years. And today we know buyers expect us as businesses to know them. We have a lot of data. Let's make sure we're using that data to ultimately, you know, with machine learning, to predict these optimal experiences. You know, if I'm Friday night having some wine and that's when I'm shopping, that's a great time to send me an email. And based on my history and my preferences, we should know that, right? So I really want us to think about how we can create these moments of delight, again, using data, using machine learning to predict and also optimize experiences for people. Maybe they don't want to receive a lot of emails or a specific offer. We want to delight them and know that. So that's really important. So to summarize, you know, our environment right now, it's dynamic. We are in definitely interesting times, but these principles, regardless of the time, are going to stay true. And that's, today we have to establish trust. We want to make sure that that's the case. We need data to be collected across all sorts of, you know, different touch points and unified, so we have one nice view of our customer. It's not, again, we don't want weird experiences. It needs to be done in real time. We need to be everywhere that, you know, our buyers are. And lastly, we do want to create these moments of delight, because again, our people expect it. You know, we can thank Amazon for this, but it's the world we're in. So let's do it. And I think that we all can. So that's really the 5 principles. You'll hear a lot more about different areas today. We have great speakers that will dive into each of these topics. And I really want to thank you again. I really appreciate you choosing to spend time with us. Please be social throughout today as well too, because again, not everyone can attend the event, and it's great to be on social channels and learn from what you're hearing here today.
Hi there, it's Will again. Thank you so much, Heidi. That was a really interesting perspective on dynamic marketing. I love the 5 tuned principles: building trust, unifying technology and data, engaging in the moment, and understanding every interaction, and obsessing about how we can create emotional connections to delight our customers. Really good stuff. Thank you. So joining us now on the virtual stage for the second of our 2 opening keynotes, we've 2 highly experienced and acclaimed digital strategy and marketing leaders from Deloitte Digital. Firstly, Amanda Lee, who is head of digital strategy and has a career spanning APAC. Most of her time is spent in the Sydney office for Deloitte Digital, leading a number of strategic transformation projects with major Australian brands. Amanda was recently seconded by Deloitte Digital to their Shanghai office, which is where she joins us from today. Joining Amanda is Bharath Krishnamachari, who is Head of Marketing, Data and Technology for Deloitte in Singapore. Bharath started life in the Asian wealth management sector before finding his way to the US to run and head up analytics and customer insight divisions for fast-growing disruptive technology companies. Amanda and Bharath's keynote will be exploring precision growth and human experience in the next normal. I'll be back with you after this keynote to introduce the rest of the sessions today. I hope you enjoy and look forward to seeing you shortly. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amanda Lee. I'm a partner with Deloitte Digital, and I used to be based in Sydney, and I moved to Shanghai last year so that I can work with brands in China to leverage the very mature digital ecosystems here and the data and the insights that they can offer to organizations. I'm really honored and excited to be speaking at this event today.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bharat Krishnamachari. I'm a director for Deloitte Digital Southeast Asia based in Singapore. We are a team of 150 digital practitioners in the region with capabilities across experience design, digital strategy, front-end design, self-service, and marketing transformation. I personally lead our capabilities at the intersection of marketing, data, and technology, and work with our large enterprise clients in the region with their marketing transformation journeys. I'm really happy to be here today at Telium Digital Velocity, and I hope you find our session useful.
So I imagine most of us here work with digital in one form or another. And this year, because of COVID, everything changed. It's not an exaggeration to say that COVID-19 has disrupted business and life as we know it. I think many of the assumptions our businesses are built on have been broken, and how we behave as individuals, families, communities, and as a society are continuing to change as well. And almost overnight, we have seen businesses closing almost all of their stores and losing revenue streams. We've seen homes changed into workplaces, schools, and in some cases, gyms. We've seen many people losing their jobs, and as well as many organizations scrambling to pivot and change their business model or routes to market in the aftershock. And as we search for the next normal, there are many questions being asked, like, will this trend of rapid digitization continue? And how is our increased sensitivity to hygiene and social spacing influence the way that we shop, who we see, and what we consume? And how should we reevaluate the impact of these new emerging human behaviors to our workplaces and strategy? So as we know, China was the first country that went into lockdown in late January. So starting from then, on the ground, we saw a progression of these questions being asked. And at the beginning of the lockdown, initially, the organizations were, of course, quite focused on standing up a task force and protecting their employees. But once that's done, what we saw was that they started asking questions like, how do I attract, sell, and deliver to customers in an all virtual world when all of my stores were shut and my offices were in lockdown? And how do I quickly scale my e-commerce capabilities? How do I market to customers? And if those were the questions organizations were asking themselves as part of their 10 days plan, 1 or 2 months in for their 90 days plan, the focus of the questions shifted to recovering from the lockdown. For example, how do I take advantage of the new channels and customer preferences? How do I optimize my sales and services channels for the next normal? And for the long term, to reinvent and thrive in a post-COVID reality, what's the future of my business? What propositions will I have? And for which customers? And how can I be better prepared for shocks like this in the future? So during this time, we definitely saw human behaviors change. In China, people were spending 20% more times online, and 1/3 of that time is spent on social media. Sales volume for grocery ordering apps increased by as much as 800%, and there were 5 times as many stores selling their products via live streaming on video platforms like TikTok, with 10 times more sales reps participating. And in March, Taobao, which is Alibaba's e-commerce platform in China, hosted a live streaming shopping festival, and more than 10,000 stores joined in on the action. Even Louis Vuitton started live streaming their latest runway products on Taobao. So in fact, the first quarter results had just come out for retail e-commerce in China, and the spend increased 42% year on year in just that first quarter. And the GMV on Alibaba reached 1 trillion during this time. So in comparison, Amazon's GMV for the whole year globally in 2019 was 355 billion. And after COVID, how has human behavior changed? We recently conducted a global consumer survey at Deloitte. It showed that in China, an overwhelming majority of the people surveyed they will spend more effort, look after their physical well-being and the health of their families. And really interestingly, out of the 13 countries that we surveyed, China and India were the only 2 countries indicating that they will be spending more on discretionary items like clothing and shoes. And concern for health and revenge spending are probably 2 of the more obvious behavior changes. I think we can all relate to an increased need to be connected, to feel productive, and most importantly, to stay safe and secure. And all of these will not only have short-term implications, but also long-term implications for businesses. And if we look at the different ways organizations are responding to the impact, there were a number of patterns that had emerged for us. On one side of the spectrum, for example, we see grocery stores, agriculture businesses, and some B2B sectors riding the wave as their products and services are essential to society and remain in demand. And on the other hand, we see some organizations using their existing infrastructure to quickly reinvent their delivery models and channels. An example in China is Cainiao, which is Alibaba's delivery service. They stood up a medical supplies warehouse in Wuhan in 6 hours the day after the lockdown was announced. And in Australia, we helped a client stand up a chatbot over the weekend in 2 days. So we got the brief from the client on Friday, and by Monday, this chatbot was stood up, so that we can help them deal with the surge in customer service calls as people were scrambling to understand what financial aids were available to them. And the truth is that the majority of the organizations are probably somewhere in between. But one thing is common, that is digital and data is always at the core of the organization's ability to respond, recover, and reinvent. I want to share a story from one of our clients, a customer footwear brand. And like almost all of the other retailers, their 2,000 stores in China were shut from Chinese New Year, which were in normal times one of the strongest sales period of the year. So their very own livelihood, as well as those of their 10,000 employees, were really seriously threatened. But we were just in the middle of helping them with digital transformation, and we had just completed phase 1 before the Chinese New Year, which focused on enabling data-driven insights for the organization. In this phase, we integrated the brand's data on their customers, products, stores, and sales, as well as third-party data from Taobao and WeChat. And these were all data assets that they owned, but not really utilizing because these data were in their respective source systems. They had 8 million members, and some were offline only members, and some were acquired from online stores. So we helped them map the identity of these 8 million members through phone numbers, delivery addresses, and in some cases, IP addresses. We cleaned up and standardized their products and sales data, then built data models that allowed them to segment and more precisely target their customers and derive products and sales insights. And through these efforts, what we were able to do was to help them lay down the foundation that can help them re-engineer a more optimized and simplified operating model to service all of their online and offline stores. So when the lockdown happened, the brand were quickly able to turn to digital channels using live streaming and social media. Now, before COVID, live streaming were more limited to influencers, celebrities, and media professionals. But during COVID, our clients tapped into their own employees. And very soon, all of their 2,000 store managers started to live stream wherever they might be and using whatever equipment they could find, often just their phones. And they will introduce the shoes and post direct purchases links to their online stores. And because of the customer insight capability we had just built for them, the client weren't shooting in the dark. They had the data and the ability to really quickly understand the makeup of their customer base. And they used this data to find the best target audience, as well as the right products for these streaming sessions. So in just 2 weeks' time, our client find that the online sales of some of their stores had gone back to pre-COVID levels. And because of the work that we did, we actually received a letter of appreciation from the founder and the chairman of this brand. And he said that at the beginning of the lockdown, he was feeling very anxious that he couldn't sleep because he seriously doubted the brand's ability to survive. But within 15 days, he started to feel optimistic and hopeful because he saw the power and the real business impact of data-driven insights and how it helped the business in these uncertain times.
So as Amanda mentioned earlier, the impact of the crisis really depends on your geography, the industry, and also your own organizational digital maturity. Now, as you look to find growth out of these circumstances and into the next normal, it's useful to go back to the fundamentals and look at your business from the lens of a growth marketing framework. I'm sure some of you have seen this. This is called the Pirate Metrics framework, which was pioneered at 500 Startups, which is a startup accelerator based out of San Francisco. And it's really just about breaking your marketing funnel into 5 distinct components and having clear measurable KPIs associated with each. So at the front end, you've obviously got acquisition, which is about finding the target audience for your business. Now, obviously, it's just not about driving quantity, but it's also about driving quality of customers into your funnel. The next step is activation. Activation is really getting your users to that first interaction point where the true value proposition of your business becomes clear. So if I go back to the early days of Facebook, their business was focused on getting all new users to 7 friends within 10 days. That's what they call their aha moment. So you might want to think about yours as you think about this particular step in the funnel. Retention is, I think everybody knows here, it's always easier and cheaper to keep an existing customer than to go out and acquire a new one. So you really want to think about how you can build that habit for those customers to stay engaged. Referral is getting to the customer to the point where he or she becomes an advocate for your brand. And finally is revenue, where you really think about driving customer lifetime value with cross-sell, upsell, and other engagement mechanisms. Now, the idea here again is that this was obviously built for B2C businesses. If it doesn't exactly work for your business context, you might want to pivot or find something else that works better. But the idea really is to use a framework like this to anchor your growth ideas as you think about sort of pivoting into the next normal. I want to share some examples here from my own client interactions in the last few months in terms of how my clients are thinking about growth. And I thought it was useful and representative. Again, by no means exhaustive. At the top end of the funnel with event marketing and other traditional marketing strategies like out of home not being as effective with social distancing and lockdowns, there's a real need and opportunity for marketers to think about moving their digital marketing mix more towards digital channels. Incidentally, it's also a great time to be buying digital because social and programmatic costs are much lower, with supply being higher, with every one of us spending more time on social media and other digital platforms, and demand from entire sectors like travel, hospitality, and entertainment being down. Another one that I want to hit upon here is rapid e-commerce. Out here in Southeast Asia, we've been having this debate the last few years on whether it makes sense for companies to build their own e-commerce capabilities or just go partner with a marketplace like Lazada. And the debates generally leaned more and more towards in favor of marketplaces in the last couple of years. But with COVID, this is, as Amanda mentioned earlier as well, the importance for owning that full digital experience and owning that customer data has really been reiterated. And so we're seeing more of our clients have a rethink about their own e-commerce strategy and owning that experience more and moving away from those marketplaces. Mid-funnel, there's obviously new offerings and new usage occasions. I wanted to provide an example here of a platform that I really use and love called ClassPass.com. It's a tech unicorn and is a platform where you can book group fitness classes in most major cities around the world. Obviously, with social distancing, people are very nervous about going for those group classes. So they've done a rapid pivot in their own offering, and it now included live home-based workouts as part of their offering. And they're to encourage people to try this. They're offering home-based heartbeat trackers as a free trial, which I thought was a great idea. Now, content and stories will always remain relevant, and now more so than ever, with all of the stress that consumers are facing with their health and also with the economy, it continues to stay important. I want to share an example here again of one of my clients. That is a job search portal. So as you can imagine, it's obviously a tough time for both employers and employees with hiring freezes, layoffs, and just a lot of uncertainty, right? So these guys are in a unique position as a marketplace to offer great content and insights to both of those audiences. To hiring managers, they're offering great insights in terms of what's happening in the job market, where they're seeing demand, what their competition is doing. And on the employee side, they're telling them where there's demand in the market for what and what type of skills are hot right now. And then finally, of course, you've got, from a revenue standpoint, new commercial models and pricing optimization strategies. Obviously, airlines and cruise lines are really testing this out. They're coming up with new revenue models where you can buy credits for a pretty steep discount now that you can use over an extended period of time. Airlines obviously testing out open-ended tickets, for instance. So again, there's no silver bullet. It's about finding bespoke solutions to find growth that suits your business and context, right? And the way really to go about it is to take a test and validate approach. This here is our framework for how you can think about test and validate. It's called it's search, solve, ship, and scale. Search is really that first step where you want to bring a strong core team of right-minded folks with backgrounds from different with different cross-functional backgrounds, and having them come together and brainstorm and ideate for what could work for your business in the current context in terms of growth ideas. They put together a portfolio of concepts, which then needs to be prioritized. And then ideally, maybe you want to bring in a UX research team that can help you validate some of those propositions with actual target customers. This could be done with dipstick surveys, user interviews, and the like, and aided by mockups, prototypes, and early stage design concepts. Once in the solve phase, once that proposition has been at least partially validated, or you've got some good initial feedback from a small sample of users, you then want to maybe invest in that particular idea and build and really start moving into an MVP phase where you can actually launch it in a test market in the ship phase, where you can then start getting real in-market data from a larger sample of users to see if that proposition is actually resonating. At this point, once you've collected the data and you really see that it's resonating with your target audience, you then make a decision to invest additional CapEx and really scale it out to your entire target base. I want to hark back again to another example from my own past. I used to work in the free-to-play mobile gaming industry. 95% of games that are launched in the App Store, for instance, make no money. They're terrible investments. But successful gaming companies really, what differentiates them is their ability to consistently go through the cycle of search, solve, ship, and scale. They start by bringing together a competent team of game makers initially who have a couple of different game ideas that they put on the table. These are then quickly validated by a UX research team with the target audience using, using surveys, interviews, and focus groups. Then one of those ideas which has resonated most gets prioritized, and they actually go out and work on building an MVP or a beta version of that game. This takes several months. Once that game's ready for a test market launch, the analytics team gets involved. They make sure that the game's plugged in with all the relevant data hooks, and full customer behavior can be understood and captured. The game is then launched in a few test markets where the user behavior is observed, and you actually really look at the full funnel KPIs for that game to make sure if this needs further refinement, or it's good, good to be launched at scale, or it actually needs to be killed. And of course, if you've made a decision to scale the game, that's when you actually then have to look at investing a lot more marketing dollars and hope that those user acquisitions that you drive pay out in terms of the customer lifetime value over an extended period of time. This is really what it takes to win in a winner-takes-all industry like free-to-play mobile gaming, right? And I thought this was a useful example for us to all, consider and learn from as we look for growth in challenging circumstances as well. Closer to home, I wanted to share this example of a restaurant chain. It's called Penguin Eat Shabu, and they have 9 restaurants that they run in Thailand. Thanks to the lockdown, they unfortunately had to shut down all their restaurants and had to furlough all their staff. But they decided to then test out a new offering. They came up with a bento box that they made available on Facebook and decided to just take orders using Facebook Messenger. And lo and behold, they actually got 350 sales within a minute, all just on Messenger. This was followed by a secondary offering, which was hotpot sales, which also did really well. And they were able to get all their staff back to full-time, back to full pay. And they're now, with the lockdown also having been lifted in Thailand, have uncovered a whole new channel that they can continue to build on. Now, I understand this is a small business, but even for large enterprise clients, there is an opportunity to do these types of e-commerce-based, prototypes and tests, especially with the likes of Shopify and now even Facebook Shops, which was recently unveiled, which I think lowers the barriers to entry as far as e-commerce is concerned. And of course, if you see good success, then you can think about investing in an enterprise scale e-commerce capability. Another example is a client that I've been working with for the last 1.5 years out here in Southeast Asia. They're in the nutrition business. Nutrition products are obviously high involvement purchasing decisions for consumers, and they've traditionally relied on face-to-face interactions by doctors and promoters in hospitals, clinics, supermarkets, and pharmacies to really drive lead acquisition and also continue the lead nurturing process until they actually consume the product. Now, with the lockdowns and also with social distancing, they've actually had to make a rapid pivot towards digital. So they've shifted their marketing mix, which was only about 10 to 15% for digital. It has actually now moved as much as 40% depending on the market. And they're actually pleasantly surprised by the results that they're seeing. Their digital leads are of high quality, and they're actually able to scale their digital campaigns with pretty good cost, cost controls as well. And all of this is also, of course, possible by the investments that they've been as a business making in the last 1.5 years in terms of their digital transformation, where they've invested in a CRM, which is fully integrated through from e-commerce down to just having a full customer 360 view. So I want to then approach my final theme for the session, right, which is around marketing transformation and the approach to get there. Marketing, I think it's become pretty clear, is now the custodian for growth in most companies. And marketing leaders are being challenged to build capabilities, not just in their traditional areas of strength like brand, content, and storytelling, but also in areas like analytics and technology. Now, the customer touch points are also getting very complicated. You've got obviously offline and online touch points, and all of these are now great sources of data. You want to bring all of this data together that you can then use to understand your audience and customer better, to then deliver a better experience back at those touch points for those consumers. Now, obviously, we're in a Telium conference, and Telium is a great product in being able to bring all of this data real time and use that for managing your audiences and customers. But there's a lot more technologies out there that need to be brought together. Now, making the technology investments honestly is the easy part. The people and process element to drive this transformation is really where we see a lot of organizations struggling. What are we talking about when we talk about the people and process and the associated org transformation? There's different elements to it, right? And by this is by no means exhaustive, but you obviously as an organization have to think about your ways of working. You want to think about your operating model between maybe region and local, between different business units, between different brands. There's your value proposition as an employer. We're operating, at least in Southeast Asia, it's a talent deficient market, especially once you come to digital native or analytics talent. So how do you position yourself as an employer to these folks to make sure that you are their preferred employer and you are able to attract top talent in this kind of space? Then again, there's the agency engagement model, which is how you again interact with different agencies across your business units and across your geographies. And finally, as you make your data and technology investments, you need to have a clear strategy on how you want to leverage that investment. So this is really where you're going to have to make sure that there's strong leadership focus and drive over an extended period of time to really drive this transformation that's going to be required as well for you to deliver that superior customer experience on top of course, the technology investments you're going to be making. With that, I come to my final slide where I really want to just summarize some of the things that we've discussed today. COVID obviously has dramatically shifted consumer behavior, and we're going to have to live with this next normal, at least for the next couple of years, maybe until a vaccine comes out. Now, the path to recovery and your ability to pivot is really going to depend on your business, the industry that you operate in, and your own organizational digital maturity. Now, as you look for growth levers in these circumstances, it's best that you look at it from a test and learn standpoint. And finally, as you think about your digital transformation, we encourage you also to think about the associated organizational transformation that needs to happen to support that technology investment you might be making. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your time. Please do feel free to reach out to Amanda or myself if you have any questions about what we've discussed today, and we hope you enjoy the rest of Telium DV. Thank you.
Hi, it's Will Griffith again. So thank you so much, Amanda and Bharath. That was a really interesting and thought-provoking session with plenty for us all to think about as we adapt to our next normal. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to familiarize themselves with the approach that we've taken for digital virtuosity today. And I'm going to take a few moments now to recap through that approach and highlight some speakers. So we've divided the rest of today into 5 30-minute sessions across 4 different tracks. And I'm going to be giving you a bit of a reminder of what those tracks are in a minute. We've tried really hard to make the content appealing to the really broad range of people who are with us today. For our awesome Telium customers, we've tried to find stories to inspire you about how other organizations are using Telium's capability to leverage their capability in digital. We're also going to be talking about some of our new products that we're bringing to the market, like Telium Predict, our fantastic machine learning capability, which brings powerful ML capability from within our CDP. And for customers considering adopting a customer data platform and starting a journey, we've pulled together some really interesting thought leadership around how you can build a team, how you can adapt your processes, and how you can evolve your way of working. But for everybody, we really hope that the blend of thought leadership, point of view, and discussion is super useful for you as you consider how you can move forward and improve your competitive advantage. So those 4 tracks, let me just do a quick reminder of what they are. So the first track is All Things Teal, which is for customers and partners who want to go a little bit deeper into Telium's technology. The second track is all about driving growth that scales. And that's designed for people who are already on a journey with a CDP and are looking for ways to accelerate and optimize the return from that investment. The third track is all about getting customer experience right. We'll be hearing from brands and thought leaders about how data can really drive engagement and experience. And the fourth and final track is all about leading digital transformation, where we'll be hearing from speakers talking about new ideas for transformation, talking about concepts for leadership, and talking about how to build resilience into your business. So by now, you should have built out your journey for today's sessions. The sessions that you want to pick from Telium speakers and from the range of guests, from our partners, from our customers, and from other thought leaders. Here's a few that I'm a little bit excited about coming up. So firstly, Adrian Kingwell, who's CEO of Mesolabs in the UK and London, is going to be joined by Ryan Ducey from Nixplay in Hong Kong. Ryan heads up marketing for Nixplay, and Ryan and Adrian are going to be talking through the journey that Nixplay have gone through over the last 6 months as the global COVID-19 pandemic hit their business really hard and forced an incredibly tough pivot that they had to make and lead within the business. So it's a fantastic story, and a story of how the business has completely changed its go-to-market and successfully done so. I'm really excited to hear about what Josh Griffiths and the team at NIB Health Funds in Australia have been up to. Josh is going to be sharing some tips on how NIB Health Funds have changed the way in which they use data to drive a richer personalization experience for their customers. And we've got a cool and thought-provoking panel, which is going to be hosted by one of our partners, the Lumery. Raj Kumar, based in Melbourne, is going to be joined by 2 Australian thought leaders, Caroline Ruddick from Latitude Financial and Shane Riddle from the Australian YMCA. And Raj, Caroline, and Shane are going to be discussing how businesses can unlock the capability between marketing and technology to really drive growth. Also from Australia, I'm looking forward to hearing from Amin Foda from Monash University in the higher education sector. And Amin is going to be talking about how his team obsesses about how they can use data and put it to work to drive the best possible student life cycle across their engagements. And then finally, from Telium, I'm really excited to be hearing from our very own Sydney-based regional lead for solution consulting, Catherine Ballantyne. And Catherine's going to be talking all about driving personalization at scale with real-time data. So the 5 back-to-back sessions today will be wrapping up at about 4:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Time, 2:30 Singapore Standard Time, where we'll come back together for the closing keynote. And for that keynote, we're going to be welcoming to the virtual stage Joe Stanhope, who is the principal analyst at Forrester, normally based in Chicago. And his keynote is going to be talking about the future is now. Joe will be sharing his point of view on how businesses are reimagining their data and technology in the context of marketing and in the face of an ever-increasing demand and expectation from today's consumers. So I'd like to take this moment to reflect, give a massive thank you to all of the speakers who have taken time and put energy and effort into creating today's journey for you. Thank you so much. And I'd like to finally close on thanking you all for being with us here today. I hope you're going to find this is an amazing experience for you. And if you'd like to continue the conversation with any of us, including myself, please find me on LinkedIn, reach out and connect. Thank you again. Enjoy your day. All the best. Goodbye.